Welcome to episode 8 of my Road to Unicum series. This is Togrim, and today we're looking at the T-54, the awesome Tier 9 Russian medium, in a Tier 10 battle, and you can see the opposing side has a very strong 1 platoon with a Super Unicum from G, a Unicum from PBCAC, and a Deep Blue player, recent player from Bulls. So they're pretty strong, and one of the most important things to think about when playing against a Unicum platoon is trying to counter what they're going to do. So I have the positional advantage of being very close to the mouth of mines, and the T-54 is also a very fast tank. So I figure that probably 2 or maybe all 3 of them are going to challenge the entrance to mines, so I want to push up there as aggressively as possible and try to beat them to it. Now, when fighting against Unicums, obviously, they have a very deep understanding of the game mechanics, map meta, tank strengths and weaknesses, weak spots, hull down, hull angling, you name it. So I need to use a lot of speed in getting up here. And notice the Bat Chat took a pretty high lane trying to get into the entrance to mine, whereas I stayed on the far right hand side, which hides you a little bit from the opposing team. And then as we push up through the entrance, because there's an enemy tank in front of us, that's the only one that we prioritize, and a friendly Bat Chat and I managed to run him off the hill. The T-54 has 2 noticeable weaknesses. One of them you can see right here. It's the very poor max gun depression of only -5 degrees. And I'd like to take out that Bat Chat, but I'm not going to be able to do it without driving pretty far forward and exposing my hull. But this 103 drives up, and he's blocking the Bat Chat shot, and also the 103 has his turret pointing to the south. So I knew that I could get up there, sneak a shot in because he's blocking the Bat Chat's view, and by the time the Bat Chat returns fire, I've already moved back. Now, despite trying to wiggle forward there a little bit, I just can't get my gun down low enough, and I don't want to force the situation and trade with a Bat Chat because obviously as an autoloader he'll just wreck me. So I decided to go ahead and flank around and see if I can find a better angle of approach. The other major weakness of the T-54 is the very low silver penetration of 201, but that's partially countered by the fact that this gun has ridiculous gold ammo penetration of 330, which is super high. And you notice I had a little bit of bad RNG. I hit the Bat Chat but got a low damage roll, and then my next shot bounces off the front side of the turret of the Bat Chat, so it's pretty unlucky there not to take him out in one shot. It ends up taking 3, but that's fine. I do eat another shot, so I have to be careful, conserve my hit points, and there really isn't a shot on the opposing players. We've kind of claimed the kind of top ridge of the mine entrance, so some of their tanks have pulled back. But we noticed that several of their tanks are trying to sneak into our base. And again, as I come up here, you can see how high my gun is pointing up. I have to really drive forward to the edge and expose my hull in order to get a shot. And unfortunately, that shot in the light tank misses. This T-44 is exposing himself in the worst possible way. He's perpendicular or flat to me, so that's a very easy penetration. And if you really wanted to cap, he should get the heck out of line of sight and use some hard cover. So I thought he was going to drive up to this bunker right in front of him, but he veers away from it. So okay, I figure he's going to hide behind these rocks, but maybe I can squeeze off another shot. But then he continues to drive forward. And the funny thing for me is, I'd love to go ahead and polish him off here, but I don't pull the trigger fast enough. And because of my poor gun depression, I can't get my gun down fast enough to kill him. But that's fine. One of our teammates, one of the allies picks him off. And what was really interesting, if you go back and watch that sequence just by looking at the minimap, there was a pretty rapid response from some of our tanks that were near the entrance to mines to flex to the southeast and help take out those tanks, but our M46 Patton stayed at home to guard the entrance to mines, because that way the player from G and the M48 can't get up into the entrance of mines without getting shot at least a few times. I had a potato moment there for a moment. I almost drove down the hill to kill the 50B, but that would have been such a waste of the effort that I made in coming up here. And now the real power of being mines is on full display. I hit the G player, so he's now one-shottable, and I take a return shot from the 140, but as it turns out, I didn't actually have to drive and expose my hull all the way on the edge of the lip there. Both of these players in the 1 platoon are facing towards me, and you'll notice as I fire at the British Heavy that he had turned his turret up in the air, and that actually can increase his ability to bounce shots since his turret roof isn't exposed. And the PBCAC player recognizes that he's pretty much been compromised his position, so he runs down the hill. He eats a shot from me, but in my opinion it was the right thing to do. Whereas the 140 player has decided not to move, and he's now going to take flanking fire from me from the east, as well as my platoon mate and other allies from the south. It's a really bad position to be in, and from his perspective, when he's shooting at me, all he sees is my turret. My hull isn't exposed at all. This is pretty ideal. Now, the great thing about using this terrain is I've effectively put this large rock to my right between me and the 4 tank destroyers that are in their base, so there's no possibility of them returning any fire on the hill towards me. The only person who can hit me is this 140, and my clanmate and I burn him down. Alright, so I gotta be careful. I'm only down to about just over 500 hit points, and I can be very quickly dispatched if I'm not careful, and I want to try to keep some of these tanks lit. I don't really have a shot on the Jagdpanther, but the Jagdtiger is pretty straight on to me, and I take a shot as lower front Glacis, and the shot bounces, and this happens a lot. Again, with 201 silver penetration, you're not going to penetrate tanks reliably. And in order to take a shot on that waffle, I had to kind of drive over the lip and expose myself quite a bit, but it was worth it because he was at such low HP and I'm rewarded with a kill shot. Now, after being lit, you generally stay spotted for about 5 to 10 seconds, so I'm just kind of hanging out behind these bushes and that rock until I'm pretty confident that I've dropped from their view and I can kind of move over a little bit. And this Bulldog is in a great position for me to pick him off. He's not aware that I'm there until it's too late because he was being spotted by one of my allies. There are only 2 tank destroyers left, and I'm being patient. In this situation, I have 2 options. I can either drop down from hill and try to run toward their base, but because I've taken quite a bit of damage, I don't want to give them an easy kill. I'm going to wait until their tanks get lit and see if I can find an angle from up top here where I can get a shot at them. When fighting Unicum platoons, it's really important to kind of strip them of their puppy meat shields and to, burn those players down. A lot of times it's going to be difficult killing Unicum players because, they're not going to overexpose themselves. They're going to be very careful. But if you strip them of their puppies, it's easy to finish them off. So my platoon mate and I managed to carry about 9,000 damage combined, along with 5 kills, so we really helped to anchor this win, and most of it was just by gaining control of hill and leveraging the angles and working together to try to get flanking shots on the same opponent. In the next video, we're going to take a look at the T-54 in a Tier 9 Sand River battle, and you can vote on the poll to let me know what tanks you'd like to see after that. Take care.